All right. Say
Probably
hi.
because it's Mother's Day.
Here we go. Hey, Johnny, say hi.
Alrighty.
All right. Well.
Once more with feeling.
Oh my God. Here we are. The Canadian Bro Show. Finally. I'm Pauly.
I'm Johnny. John Leister.
Nobody cares about our last names right now, but that's okay. Thanks for joining with us. This is our first episode 1 of the Canadian Bro Show. Very excited.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching, and we hope to have you continue to watch and entertain you.
Yes.
And enlighten you.
Enlighten. Educate. Share.
Regale. And or if you just find us completely unacceptable, you don't
That's
have
not going to happen.
You don't have to subscribe. But we would prefer if you did, because it's going to help our channel. Again, it's the first
Why
time.
don't we start with talking a little bit about our histories, our backgrounds. And so Pauly, why don't you talk a little bit about what your childhood was like and where you grew up and maybe some of your experiences.
Ooh, it would have to be limited because we're trying to do a 35-minute show. But
right.
I will talk about my partner in crime here. One of my oldest friends of almost 52 years old. 52 years we've actually been friends on and off for the most part, and we're still friends.
Yes.
A lot of people would actually say, "You're still friends?" How did that,
yeah, they would be surprised
how
by
did that work out? Well, because
lucky.
we didn't hang out very much, and so we didn't get tired of each other. But here we are, and we're very happy and excited to be able to present the Canadian Bro Show.
Yes.
And the first thing, I guess, is to, who are we? What are we doing here? My name is Paul. You can call me Pauly. And he is...
John.
Or you can
call me Johnny.
I prefer Johnny. I like it
Johnny,
better. Pauly, Johnny.
me.
It sounds good.
100%.
I first met Johnny when I was born in Cambridge in the UK. And we came to Canada, thank God, when I was pretty young, less than a year old, and we flew into Winnipeg, and thank God my family was on the West Coast in British Columbia in Vancouver. I didn't know it, of course, but the best place to grow up in the world where we grew up.
So.
Kitsilano Beach?
We grew up in Kitsilano, which is a Vancouver neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's very peaceful and a beautiful beach, Kits Beach.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call it an upper middle class area, kind of somewhere between maybe middle class and quasi upper middle class.
Certainly not in the 60s and 70s when we met.
No, in the 60s and 70s, I remember there were a lot of hippies lying on the streets on 4th Avenue. I remember walking with my mom, she's holding my hand. I actually remember stepping over people on 4th Avenue. That's how bad it was.
Well, they used to sell pot when it wasn't legal, right on the corner of Plinley's. Which is a car dealership on 4th and Vine. And we just lived a few blocks from there. We were sort of north of 4th, which is really one of the best areas because we're literally 3 blocks from Kits Beach.
Right.
And all of the beaches that connect the peninsula up to UBC. So we didn't know it at the time, but we actually were very blessed to be raised in such an incredible neighborhood. Kits Beach is right now in the top, believe it or not, the top 20 beaches in the world.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
Now, Paul and I have had this long-standing friendship, and we have some great similarities. We both share a passion for movies and comic books and pop culture. But let's face it, our childhoods were very different in a lot of ways too. Paul was, now he doesn't like it when I say this, but I'm going to say it because it's true. Paul was a very popular and well-regarded and well-looked up to guy. He really hates it when I say this, but here we go. I'm stepping onto thin ice now.
Not at all.
We went to Kitsilano High School together, I guess from 1978 to 1983, and he was the big man on campus. Everybody looked up to him and respected him, and deservedly so. And I was kind of an outsider. I was a bit of an oddball. Wouldn't you agree with that, Pauly?
Well, I would, but I mean, you're still an oddball.
Yeah, well, thank you.
But that's why I love you.
I like to think that I'm an oddball and always wonderful.
And so am I. But we just jumped 7 years into the advance. So I met Johnny in 1972, and I met him through another one of my old friends, Michael Bashinsky, who lived right across the street from Johnny. And
you remember our first meeting?
I do
I do
personally.
not.
I know that's okay. So Johnny and all of Mike Blashinsky and all of the kids, people that lived in our hood, all went to pretty much Henry Hudson,
Right.
or General Gordon, or Lord Tennyson, or St. Augustine's. But Henry Hudson was the most popular because it was on Cornwall and Cyprus. And so when you got your lunch, you could go to the beach for
Right.
45 minutes if you wanted to. Henry Hudson, by the way, have you seen it? What they did?
It's been refurbished or
It's
something. Are they
a
tearing
lot
it
of
down?
them. No, they kept it, the
Yeah.
brick, because it's heritage. But then they built a brand new, like Kitsilano High.
Right. Yeah, they completely refurbished. Kids
Totally
High School.
redid
Yeah,
it.
It looks really cool, actually.
So when we met back then, it was like a whole different thing. Kitsilano in the 60s and 70s is hard to imagine how extraordinary the lifestyle was. It was simple, it was kind,
Right.
it was generous, it was fun.
No internet.
No
cell phones,
internet.
More interaction, I think.
Yeah,
More
it was all
interpersonality.
comic books,
Yeah.
and trading cards and Slurpees from 7-Eleven.
Yes.
and
Pinball. Right?
and whatever,
Asteroids.
and yeah, at the Big Scoop,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I remember
Pac-Man.
Big Scoop all too well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we learned, and our bikes, our Mustang bikes, and we'd ride to
Right.
school every day, and it was all about going to kids' pool, and it was just a really lovely vibe. And here we are in the 21st century, some 52 years later, and
Still alive. I guess we're doing something right.
yeah,
Right.
and we're still friends.
Still friends.
And one of the things we wanted to do with the Canadian Bro Show is introduce our love of Canada and
Hey.
our passions.
How's it going, eh? That's how Canadians talk.
How you doing, eh? That was my Canadian Italian. It's not really
Very
Canadian.
intimidating.
Yeah, not really. It's because I got the Glock down here. But, you know. And so we just wanted to have some fun and talk about the things we love and our experiences. And this being an introductory show, we're going to try to make it concise and simple and simplified, but we want to talk about those things. So when I finally got to meet, my first memory was going to John's apartment and meeting his mom briefly, and immediately John
think my mom was
immersed me.
hot? A lot of my friends pointed out that my mom was a very
Yeah,
attractive
when I was 8 years old,
I didn't really want to hear that.
when I was 7, 8 years old, I didn't think really anybody was hot. To be perfectly frank, she was attractive, I guess, but my mom was super hot as well, if not more so. And I hated my friends. They always
let
were like,
that pass.
"Oh, your mom's just hot. You know, she's got this," and I'm like, "Dude, I don't want to hear it."
No,
But
it's a little bit creepy.
I remember John took me into his room, and he showed me his comic books. He
Huge
was
comic book nut.
huge comic book
Ahead
nut.
of my time.
So was I.
Yes.
And so that
Ahead
was
of the
something
curve.
that we shared. And of course, both our parents were single family parents raising kids in sort of a dysfunctional environment, if you will. And so that we shared as well. And of course, we shared the neighborhood. Even though we didn't go to the same school, he went to Henry Hudson, I went to St. Augustine's. St. Augustine's was the Catholic school. And I'm glad I did. I had 6 years and it was wonderful. But my first
Did you
memories.
wear a uniform?
Yeah, we did.
did?
We
It was
had to.
very
It was
disciplined, I would
mandatory.
imagine,
It was
right?
navy blue and white.
Was it all boys?
No, there was girls as well.
Nice.
Not really.
No?
I mean, I didn't acknowledge it or whatever, but you know, I just found an affinity with a lot of the people because we all shared the same things in the 60s and
Did
70s.
they have corporal punishment at that school?
They had. They used to paddle. They used to have a thin wand or
Wow.
a bamboo stick,
Oh my God.
where they bring you up in front of the class, and they
Holy mackerel.
whack you in the ass, and that would be a priest or what's the opposite of a priest? The female version.
Oh, a nun?
A nun. Can you imagine a
flying
nun
nun.
whacking you with a bamboo stick on your ass in front of everyone in 1972, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5?
It's amazing what's acceptable in a previous generation and now would be considered anathema in present day.
Totally, totally. It would never get away with it, wokeism, but that's okay. It was a really, really extraordinarily special time, and the fact that we're actually hanging out and doing this video and doing the Canadian Bro Show all these decades later is really exciting.
It is.
I'm very excited.
I mean, before 2019, if you were to have approached me with this idea, I would have turned you down politely, of course, because we're Canadian. Canadians are notorious for being
Canadians,
polite.
eh?
We're very polite. because before 2019, I didn't have anything to talk about. I really didn't have anything to be proud of. I had a huge chip on my shoulder because I've been working in the service industry for so many years, and I always knew in my mind's eye that I had a vision of being a creative manifester. So that's exactly right. And so in 2019, I became, of all things, a self-published author. I created, plug. I don't know if you want to get into this or not, but
we're going to get into the interview phase past the introduction, which we'll finish shortly.
Okay.
Because it's fascinating, and I'll just tell them right now, for anybody that is watching and will be watching, because this will be on Spotify and this will be on YouTube, and we'll have our own YouTube channel, and hopefully we can build our audience and share more of our experiences. But initially, we just wanted to
inspire you as well.
Absolutely.
Because Paul and I I'm 58.
59.
Same age, 59.
Yep.
I didn't become a self-published author until I was 53. Now, if you're watching this and you're 23, 53 sounds pretty old. But philosophically, we have to live our lives in the present, in the here and now. And part of the reason that I'm doing this, all of this writing and doing this podcast with Paul, it's not just about my own self-promotion and my own trying to be more in sync with what I was always meant to be.
But it really is, because he is
absolutely
100% shamelessly.
It is, he's right. He's not wrong. But it's also, I like to think that it's also about inspiring other people, because there are a lot of people out there who are our age, and they kind of feel like that the ship of their life has sailed. Yeah. And of course, it's a distortion of reality, and it's very easy to buy into other people's negative philosophies. So what happened to me in 2019 is I was able to create a mindset for myself that motivated me. And I think part of it also is getting older, becoming more aware of the finiteness of time, right?
We are all on the clock.
Oh, absolutely. TikTok.
And time is of valuable essence.
And that's the nice thing. That to me is the awesome part of getting older, is because you're more aware of that.
Totally.
And of course, you can choose fight or you can choose flight. And we're living in a time...
Or both.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you could do both.
I was just going to say that we're living in a time where we have so many distractions. You know, there's Netflix and there's the internet and there's video games. And it's fine to enjoy all of that stuff as long as you and I are not sacrificing whatever it is that we were meant to do with our lives.
At this age, we no longer sacrifice. Time is of essence, as I just said.
Yeah.
It's time to live your life.
I mean, we could be doing a lot of other things right now.
I do a lot of other things, but this is what I enjoy to do at this point. And what I'd like to go into this next thing, because we've had quite a nice impromptu introduction.
So far, so good. Yeah.
I would like to interview Johnny so that people can understand a little bit more what he has so eloquently shared in a very short period of time. And if I may ask you your first question.
Sure, bring it on.
When did you realize, and this man is a very talented writer, a novelist, how many books?
Over 100. Now, granted, they're not very long. They're
100-page books. So essentially, he could take, because for the most part, what Johnny will explain to you is one book could be 100 pages. Well, technically, you could put 5-6 books together and have 600 pages, or 300, which is probably what your future, what do they call the guys that want to hire you because of your little talent, your novel?
An agent?
An agent, which is one of the reasons why we're doing this channel, yes. Because we need to find him an agent. And we will. I'm going to help, and he is going to provide the talent. But at the end of the day...
An editor would be nice too, because I know my books have mistakes.
You'll need a lot more.
Part of art is the imperfection. I always tell people, if you want to write, if you're inspired by what I'm doing, which I hope that you are, don't spend your whole life trying to just write one book and trying to finesse it and make it perfect. Art is your favorite movie of all time has bloopers, has mistakes. You know that the cup of water is this high in one shot and then it's this high in the next shot. Or the
cigarette ash is this long and then...
You Google your favorite movie and there's a whole long list of bloopers, and then you watch the movie again, you notice them you never noticed before. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because what matters is how the story makes you feel. And every time I write, I make myself laugh. Sometimes I make myself cry, or I get excited about something. You never really know what you want to do with your life until you actually do it. You have to do it. And once you make that discovery that, hey, you know what? This is what makes me happy, then that will perpetuate the motivation to keep doing it. Never mind whether it makes you any money. Never mind what other people think. And Rocky Balboa said it best. You people are going to criticize you.
It's all about the change.
They're going to mock you. You have to take those hits and keep moving forward. And it's worth it.
So at the end of the day, Johnny could talk for hours, but I'm interviewing him. So what he needs to do is answer the questions. So my next question is, and how many novels have you written?
It's over 100. Well, short stories.
Short stories. Short
So
novels.
some are longer than others.
Short novels. And
novellas.
And I've read many of his just extremely talented, very funny. I'd like it a little bit dirtier, a little bit more graphic myself personally.
File for future reference.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt. But
more sex.
When did you first realize that you wanted to be a writer?
It's something that I've always known. As you know, as we said earlier, we grew up loving comic books. Initially, I wanted to be a comic book artist, and I drew every day for hours after school, and I like to think that I was getting good at it. But I guess I was too extroverted when I was a kid. Oh, cheers, bro. I guess I wanted to go outside and hang out with you and, you and my friends. Cheers, everybody. Thank you so much for this.
For joining us. And if you like this content, please subscribe. It will help us out. The video won't be up, but back to Johnny.
Tell your friends.
Tell everyone.
Yeah, spread the word. And so I've always known that I had an artsy spirit. I took acting for a couple of years. There was an actor named Peter Breck who's a star of a show called The Big Valley. Remember The Big Valley back in the day with Lee Majors?
I was in a television show with Peter Breck.
Oh my gosh.
I went to his...
He was my acting teacher.
I
didn't know this about you.
He was my acting teacher as well.
Discovery.
Well, because I'm doing your interview. You're not doing my interview.
Did you go to Breck Academy?
No, it was too expensive. But anyways.
Yeah. So in my early, when I graduate, okay, I want to ask you a question. I know you're interviewing me, but
I'm interviewing you.
I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Then we'll go back.
Okay.
When you graduated, we graduated in 1983. Did you have a game plan for yourself? Because most kids that go to university or they get a job, did you have a game plan for yourself when you graduated high school? Because I didn't. I was lost at sea. I was rebellious.
I thought I did, but I was also lost at sea. I had no idea. I thought I had an idea, but I had no idea.
But you always knew you wanted to be a pro basketball player.
Well, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a model. I wanted to open a restaurant.
He's in Bird on a Wire with Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn.
Well, we can get that when he interviews me. Well, we're talking about him right now. So
my favorite topic.
You wanted to be a novelist at how old?
Yeah, I always knew that I could write, and when I was in my 20s, I read books like the one you have there, Story by Robert McKee.
Which was going to be a gift to you, but you already read it.
Thank you. I've read some of it. Oh, I haven't read the whole thing, but I definitely will have.
If I give this to you, gift it, will you read it?
Absolutely.
Because you're already an excellent, prolific writer.
Thank you.
This will help immensely.
There's no such thing as too much information.
Dude, if you want an agent,
right,
you got to be the best.
Absolutely.
And you're already very good.
So let's say around 2005, I want to say.
Okay.
I was working security. I've been a security guard for 35 years, believe it or not.
What?
I know. I just fell into a rut, fell into this kind of routine of life of just making enough money to keep my head above the water. And I was working at this one site. It was a data center. And literally my job was to push a button to let trucks into the building for 8 hours. It's for real. I know, exactly. And so I was understimulated. And so I started writing these short stories. I wasn't even thinking about publishing them. I was just...
So you were being paid to write?
Well, yeah, unintentionally.
So you were professional before you were professional?
Well, I was getting started, let's put it that way. And so I wrote about 50 or 60 of these bite-sized, little 5, 10-page, little fable kind of stories. I created this character, plug. His name's Lee Hacklin. He's a private investigator. And so in these stories, he has all the information that he needs, and he goes to find the missing kid or the missing painting. Pardon me?
What's his name?
Lee Hacklin.
Lee Hacklin.
It's a good name, right?
You know who Lee Hacklin is?
He's an idealized version. I think a lot of writers do that. I think Ian Fleming did that when we
alter ego. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Pardon me.
Gesundheit. A lot of writers create idealized versions of themselves, and Lee is a much cooler and much more handsome and much more debonair and certainly wittier and braver version of myself. But he has the same kind of outlook on life, which I like to think is generally a pretty positive outlook. So I wrote these short stories over a period of months, and thank goodness I made hard copies, and then I just stuck them in my bedroom where the papers curled and the pages yellowed. And then in 2019, and do we want to talk about this?
I mean,
this
people want to hear it.
Spiritual stuff?
No, we'll carry on later.
Okay.
Let's talk about your novel.
2019.
Because we're trying to find a literary agent for this man, because I don't have the skills for that.
Movie deal. Netflix deal.
No, television. Retro 70s television series.
I think there's an audience.
Lee
somewhere.
Hacklin.
You know, here's another thing. You know, George Lucas, when he was trying to sell Star Wars back in the day, you know, how many people told him that he was crazy? Like, how many people told him, George, nobody wants to see movies about heroes
Only
and
the
villains.
people that were jealous of him because he was
Exactly.
so talented.
Right? And it's such an important life lesson, everybody. You can have a really amazing idea, and everyone in your immediate inner circle might not see the beauty of it. That doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. It's probably an awesome idea. You just have to connect with that one person who has the money and who has the power to make it, you know, to make it happen. And so after 2019, when I published my first book, The Collected Cases of Lee Hacklin, 1970s Private Investigator, book one. Hang on while I take a breath. Where's my oxygen mask?
The more you watch us, and we hope you do, the more he will shamelessly plug his talent.
Time is not slowing down.
Not at all. And I love it. I mean, you know, this balls, you know,
So it was a tremendous uphill battle for me to get that first book posted, because Paul and I, of course, we grew up in a generation where none of this stuff existed, right?
No. Well,
You know,
here.
Yeah, I mean, we had the information, but it was harder to get. And so when I published that first book, finally, when I saw on the screen for the first time, congratulations, your ebook has been published. Have you seen the movie Billy Elliot about the boy who wants to be a ballet dancer? Have you seen that movie?
I think I missed that one.
It's just in a nutshell, just about a boy who lives in London, England, and it's the 1970s, and he wants to be a ballet dancer. And of course,
I heard it.
His dad, of course, is not very happy that his son wants to be ballet. But spoiler warning, eventually comes around. And so he takes Billy to this ballet school in London, and the auditioners ask Billy, well, how do you feel when you dance? And he says, I feel like electricity. Fabulous. Right. And that's how I felt, Paul, when I saw on the screen for the first time, congratulations, your ebook has been published. I was like, so this is what that feels like. Starting something, and there were hiccups along the way, and there were a lot of hiccups and potholes, and actually crossing the finish line. Like some people, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger, they live their whole lives that way, right? They have a goal, they move towards it, there's obstacles along the way, but they stay the course.
And look what he's done.
And then they move on to the next goal, and then they move on to the next goal. And some of us, we don't have that determination because we don't have the mindset. And so after 2019, I had the mindset. I read a ton of self-help books back in the 80s. You know, Anthony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, and Unlimited Power, and Deepak Chopra was another
They were
one.
cassette tapes back when I started the same.
Yeah, I still remember Fran Tarkenton?
Oh.
Remember that infomercial?
Dude, when I first heard Fran Tarkenton, I thought it was like she had her own cooking show.
And he was talking about his addiction to chewing tobacco.
Well,
do you remember that?
It's a huge addiction.
When I saw that infomercial for the first time, this would be the early 1980s, I thought I was watching a Saturday Night Live skit. Like I had this kind of knee-jerk reaction to it, but I would watch it again and again. It's like, well, wait a second. This, Anthony Robbins, he's like 7 feet tall, right? With the toothy grin. He's actually
6'7", and his head's the size of a suitcase. But he's filthy rich.
He is,
and very successful.
And I think,
but this is not just about Johnny. This is about an interview. So that was the elongated first question. The second question will be a little bit more concise because we only have a certain amount of time.
Okay.
But we certainly appreciate it. This is why I wanted to do this with Johnny, because showcase his talents, allow him to just be free-flowing and be himself, because that's what we all want at the end of the day, is to be ourselves and to be who we think we truly are.
Every one of us has something to offer to this world. Yeah. Whatever it is, it might be something creative, or maybe more business.
Johnny is books, and his writing is extraordinary. So the next question I'd like to ask him, after going through everything that you've been through and all the years that we first met, you're at a point now in your life where, do you have any regrets thus far?
No, because there's no point in having regrets, because when we have regrets, it demotivates us. It all boils down to how we feel about ourselves. Now, it would be very easy for me to say, oh gosh, I spent 35 years, being a couch potato. I used to be very overweight. I used to weigh anywhere from 235 to 250 pounds. I was living like a drug addict, basically. I put all my eggs into
without
one
the
basket.
drugs, but he was like a big pile of jelly.
Yeah, I was pretty overweight. And look, Winston Churchill obviously didn't lack for self-confidence.
Here we go.
Because he was overweight, right? You can be
Winston Churchill didn't give a...
He didn't. What did he say? Every time I think about exercise, I feel like lying down, right?
No,
and it's
he
fine.
would lie down and get up and have a double or triple
and a cigar,
and do that all day.
Right. I mean, it all boils down to how you feel about yourself. And so after 2019, when I started working out and my diet became a lot healthier, I found that I had a lot more energy. And of course, when you have big goals in life, you need to have an abundance of energy. And I'm not judging. I don't want to throw stones in a glass house. But when I was a couch potato and I was pounding down KFC and pizza night after night and just watching my VHS tapes and then my DVDs and then my Netflix for a while, it becomes like an addiction. And then finally I hit that saturation point. And I don't know if this will answer your question, but
not.
What really well, we'll see. What really changed my life was loneliness. I was spending way too much time by myself. And my inner monologue went from, I don't mind being myself because I'm just living vicariously through all these fictional characters that I'm watching all these DVDs or all these novels or all these comic books that I'm reading. My inner monologue went from, this is fun to, this sucks. Right? From one extreme of the spectrum.
There's a lot of room for improvement is what he's trying to say.
And so, again, I just feel that getting older and being, William Shatner, who's one of my favorite human beings.
Super God. William Shatner is one of his super gods.
Ultimate comedian. I mean, he was in space recently, right? I mean, he's done everything. I watched an interview.
He's amazing. 94 years old, right. And the guy's amazing.
I think that he's a real life liver. And I watched an interview with him a few years ago, and the interview asked him, like, gosh, you have such a passion for life. It's like life's a lemon, and you're just squeezing every single drop out of it. And he said, because I feel the scythe of death scratching my back.
And yet, he's almost 95 and he's still with us.
And
God bless him.
Proactive.
So,
Norman Lear, who recently passed away, I think he was 100, still working in television. Creative All in the Family. And all
so
these
what John's really trying to share on this second question is his passion for life is exceptional. And his talent is extraordinary. And there's a lot of room for growth. And I think at the end of the day is at what a lot of people and viewers might say, these guys are almost 60 years old. They should be thinking about retiring. Well,
no.
I don't feel 60. I don't look 60. I don't act 60. I don't even know what that means. But Johnny's the same way. And we are at the epicenter of adulthood and a lot of room for growth. So my next question, Johnny,
yes, sir,
is you've been in security for 35 years.
And continue. Still my bread and butter job.
Well, that's what pays the bills.
Yes.
And so what is your first priority aside from getting an agent and selling some of your talented
that would be cool
writing?
Thank you.
What is the one thing that you want more than anything else?
I want to see a Lee Hacklin, Private Investigator, now streaming on Netflix. Executive producer John Leister, based on characters created by John Leister. I am very...
Based on John Leister, because Lee Hacklin is John Leister.
Yes, idealized. Now, I like to think that I am very objective about my writing in the sense that I know that what I'm writing is not great literature, but I feel that there's an audience. There's an audience out there for my stories. The kinds of stories that I'm writing are the kinds of stories that I feel that you and I grew up with. They're not politically correct. They're not preachy. They're not trying to push a particular political philosophy. They're old school.
Quick interjection.
Yes, sir.
Lee Hacklin is basically your alter ego.
Yeah.
Lee Hacklin's like a 70s retro private eye.
Yes.
Who is the closest that from that
era? I love this question. Okay. Credit. We have to give credit where credit is due. Without Robert B. Parker, Lee Hacklin doesn't exist. Are you familiar with this author?
The name, yes.
He is a writer. You remember Spencer for Hire with Robert Urich and Avery Brooks?
I do.
Right.
Never liked it. But.
So that, I never watched it. But when I read the books, it was very easy to imagine Robert Urich as his character Spencer. Back in the 80s, I've always been a very avid reader, and I fell in love with this detective series called The Spencer, who again is a drinker, and he's a philosopher, and he's a boxer, and he's an athlete. You know, he's just like a Renaissance man.
A ladies' man, exactly what Johnny is.
Well,
all of those.
We'll see.
Except
maybe except for the last part.
Well,
anyway, Hope Springs Eternal. And I read these books, and by the way, I really recommend them. They're really fun, really entertaining, very old school. And again, his books have characters who are really bad and deserve their comeuppance, and they get it. And I remember thinking, even when I was a young man, I remember thinking, and he wrote from a first person narrative
perspective.
So like choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
So you're in the mind of Spencer, who is this kind of straight arrow kind of character, and then he's interacting with all these very idiosyncratic characters. I remember thinking back in the day, you know, I think I can do this. I don't know if I can do it as well, as Scintilla as well, but again, it's such an important life lesson. When you see someone doing something, like when you were a young boy, you saw a professional basketball player, and you thought, you know, I think I'd like to do that.
Not then. I did, but I never conceptualized that because I was only 4 years old when I saw the New York Knicks win their championship.
But it's so important to pay attention to that feeling, because I believe, and I will be the first one to admit that this is somewhat of an esoteric concept, but I believe that there are certain things that come with us to these corporeal bodies, for want of a better word, the soul. And
corporeal.
I can back this up with evidence.
Spell that one.
Okay. Some kids get math right away, right? You explain an algebraic equation to them, they get it.
Johnny got Star Trek right away.
Yeah, right away, absolutely. You know, now some people look at Star Trek and they think it's total garbage.
No,
I looked at Star Trek and I thought, this is amazing. This is presenting.
It was the best science fiction television show on TV.
This is presenting. I watched shows like Star Trek and the Brady Bunch as a boy, and it always broke my heart that people made fun of them, because I thought, this is how people should be. You know, Captain Kirk doesn't go running to the liquor store when the Klingons attack, right?
Only Offset.
Offset, yeah, maybe during the commercial break.
So the next question, because this is still an interview, and this is my fourth question. I'm lucky to get 4 in. But the next question is, now that you've been able to share a little bit of your passion, which is quite obvious.
Thank you.
Where do you see yourself moving forward today and tomorrow?
I think I already answered your question. I mean,
not my question.
Every time
everyone's asking.
What I've discovered about myself over the last 4 years, and again, I'm sorry if this comes across as self-aggrandizing. It's just one thing that I like to think that I'm okay at. Every time I open my notebook, boom, 2, 3, 4 pages. This is what I was meant to do with my life. And I have faith that my stories are good enough for media adaptation. Graphic novels, movies.
I honestly, if I may interject once again, only twice now, I'm trying not to, I see Lee Hacklin as a 1970s television show. The kids these days, the millennials and the Gen Zs and whatever the next decade is going to bring us, maybe they'll find that kind of cool. Maybe they'll start dressing like that. If there was one show that your favorite show, Private Investigator, in the 70s or 80s, that epitomizes as close to Lee Hacklin and what your alter ego brings, what would that show be?
Oh, I got to say, the Rockford Files. Well, I used to watch that show religiously back in the day.
Yeah, me
and
too.
again, without the Rockford
Good
Files,
show.
I don't know that Lee Hacklin exists. And you know, when I was a kid, I was really into superhero comic books. And I actually, plug, I wrote a superhero trilogy called Morning Star's Night. And I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of everything that I've written. It's kind of like a parent and their kids. Who's your favorite kid? Well, you love all your kids equally. But I discovered, and again, you don't know what you want to do or what you don't want to do until you actually do it. I discovered that writing the superhero genre,
like what we're doing right now,
and like I'm loving doing this.
This
I'm
is
having
awesome,
a great time,
dude. We might have
day.
something special here. You might not see it now, but this is.
I think
this is a good vibe.
So far, it is a good vibe.
But
good
we have to
vibration.
cut the interview at 5 because we can go on. My camera might just run out of battery.
Okay, well, we don't want that.
No, but it's only the first show.
Do you want to wrap this up?
No, I mean, I want you to finish what you're saying.
Okay.
And then you do my interview, and then we can finish up. And I mean, it's fantastic. This is great.
Well, yeah, the Rockford Files. Just to answer your question.
Is that the only one?
It's the one. Mannix was another one.
Mannix is good, but Rockford was better.
I like stories where the main character is a strong woman, like Aliens with Sigourney Weaver, one of my all-time favorite movies. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I watched in the 1990s, one of the most amazing.
I agree with the first one.
Not a Buffy.
I love aliens. I love science fiction.
Right.
Oh, it's fun.
And that's another thing. I wrote a 2-part science fiction novel called The Taking of Red Star 1, which is basically the...
We'll get into that at a future interview.
Okay.
In the meantime, gives you a real synopsis of this man's heart, his soul, his spirit, and happy to be here with him with the Canadian Bro Show.
Reciprocated.
And it's now Johnny's turn to give me a brief interview. And we'll see what happens.
Okay. So how did you become, he was a professional basketball player in Europe. How does that happen?
That's a really good...
I think it's amazing.
How did it happen? It happened too late.
Better late than never.
I was just going to say that because I should have played professional basketball right out of high school.
What stopped you?
Ignorance, lack of direction, not a father figure like we both know about.
But you were a star player in high school, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, as it stands, I'm the leading scorer in Kitsilano Blue Demons history. Over 5 years, averaging 25 points a game over 5 years.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry I didn't watch your games.
No,
I'm just not a sports guy.
I was going to ask you, but I had a feeling you'd never have gone.
I feel guilty about that.
But this is my interview.
Okay.
So...
I'll take a hint.
No, I'm joking. So, yeah. And we didn't have a 3-point line, which has really bothered me because I would have, instead of averaging 25 points over 5 years, because I'm a stats guy, I would have been at probably 30. Pete Maravich numbers. And that was the hope because Pete Maravich was my, when you talk about literary novelists and television shows and movies and comics and cards, for basketball, Pistol Pete Maravich was when I saw him play, I was like, this guy is insane in the membrane. It wasn't the membrane, it was everything else. But really getting back to your question, I'll make it more concise.
Sure.
And try not to ramble. Saying you were.
I'm interested.
But it's the first time he's asked me, and we've known each other 52 years. So
I keep meaning to, every time we're together,
better late than never. Isn't that what he said? So at the end of the day, I was blessed to have a passion, as Johnny does for writing. And I was better late than never. And I just, because...
Yeah, but how, like specifically, how do you become a professional baseball player?
Basketball, not baseball.
Sorry, slip of the tongue.
Non-sports, dude.
Something ball.
Yeah, it's a ball. Basketball is the fastest growing sport in the world. And when I first saw it, I was just absolutely captured my imagination. I don't know why, because at the time I was probably 4 foot and maybe 100 pounds wet. And so not exactly that, but it wasn't about that. It was about sports. I love sports. It was an escape for me. And I played all sports except for cricket and rugby.
Now, did you play all sports as well as you played basketball?
For the most part. I was a really blessed athlete, and I'm ambidextrous and
I didn't know that.
fast and quick. Yeah, I'm a lefty, but I used to shoot basketball.
You can dribble with both hands.
Oh yeah, I can do everything with both hands.
Well, moving forward.
Anyways, let's not go into...
Turn the page.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I had a membership at the Marine Drive golf course in Southwest Marine Drive. My grandfather got me a membership as a junior member, and I was playing golf and I loved it, and I was doing gymnastics and I was playing badminton, track and field, soccer, everything.
Racket
Baseball
sports was the only thing I could play. Like I was a fairly decent tennis player back in the day.
I've never seen you do anything but walk. But anyways,
and talk.
So yeah, definitely loves to talk.
Capital
And so
T.
do I. So my gramps got me this membership, and I was there, and I'm in this elite golf course, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. And I go back to the first basketball game I watched in 1971, I believe, 71. The New York Knickerbockers won their second championship with Walt Clyde, the Glide, not Drexler.
The Knickerbockers.
The Knickerbockers. And he was the starting point guard, and it was a black and white. And I saw that, and I was like, now this game is fluid. This game is simple, but very complex. How do I learn it? And the short of the answer is I fell in love with basketball almost instantaneously. I still play golf. It's because I can't play basketball anymore. I'm too old. But now I play golf. And I love it. It's my second favorite sport. But really is the competitive nature that I have deep within myself is so overpowering that I couldn't stop being the best version of myself playing basketball, and I wanted to be a professional basketball player and make the NBA. I didn't make the NBA.
Did you actually try out for the NBA?
I tried out for Vancouver Grizzlies.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
I briefly worked for the Vancouver Grizzlies when I retired from basketball, and I was coaching in camps and clinics in Vancouver. But because I didn't make the NBA, I did the next best thing, and that was to utilize my citizenship and go to Europe and play in the top leagues in Europe. And I played for 7 seasons. I started at 29 and I retired at 36. And to think I retired in 1999 and it's 2024 just shows you how old we are. But I can still shoot. I just don't play anymore. Yeah. And it was the best thing I ever did because I challenged myself. I believed in myself. And I made it happen, and it was absolutely trial by error. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. It was the best thing I've ever done in my life, and I'm glad I did it. And it's been wonderful memories. And
you got paid. The most important thing is you're getting paid to do the thing you love to do the most.
Bro, I got paid. Yeah. They paid me to play basketball.
Life doesn't get any better.
They gave me a salary. Wow. They paid my taxes.
Benefits?
They gave me all kinds of benefits. They gave me a condo, a car, free gear, 3 meals a day, and all of the other stuff that happens off the court. We won't go there. This is a family show.
We'll try to keep this family
It's a family show.
Yes.
And he has a propensity to swear, so far we haven't sworn.
What? I never swear.
I swear all the time.
I say F word.
By the way, if I do swear, I apologize. But again, your next question.
So what happened? You became a professional basketball player. Now, how did you get involved in real estate? How did that? You're a real estate agent, right?
I'm a real estate investor. I was a real estate investor initially, and I bought my first property in 2003. Wow. When I met my wife, we moved back to Vancouver after I retired from basketball. I knew I had to find something to do. I knew I had to find an investment, and I knew the market would explode in Vancouver after living in Europe, in the UK, and everywhere. And the prices of everything, I knew that I was under the gun. I had to do it sooner than later, otherwise I'd miss the opportunity, and I did. We bought our first property in 2003. I've owned numerous properties in a very modest portfolio. I still have a modest portfolio, but I've flipped a few properties to be able to move up the property ladder, and I did it at the right time. I had a great wife that supported me and provided grounding, and I took the same passion I had for basketball and I translated that into real estate as best I could.
What advice would you give to someone who's watching this, maybe someone who's younger than us, who wants to be a real estate investor like yourself? Like when you make a sale, what's the most important aspect of making a sale?
Let me answer the first question because it's really a good question and it's important. The first question is, what would I say to these people? Don't even think about doing it. Don't do it.
Wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, don't do it.
Now, why do you say that?
It is a brutal industry. It is extremely difficult. Everybody and their dog thinks they can be a successful realtor. They think they can just roll out of bed, throw in a Brooks Brothers suit, hop in their BMW, and make millions of dollars. It does not work that way. It's the most diabolically difficult career choice you could possibly ever imagine, specifically in British Columbia.
And why is that?
We can talk about that at future videos because we can go on for a long time. It's politically, there's just so many dynamics. I've been in real estate 21 years now. I was in the hospitality industry for 28 years. I was a professional realtor for 7 years. That's my 3 trades. And at approaching 60 in a few months, I still want to be in real estate because I like to think I work smarter and I'm a little bit more savvy and I have thick skin because of what I've been through. Not just life experiences, we all been through life experiences, but the hospitality industry and being a professional athlete are two of the most difficult industries to be successful at an extended period of time. And to be able to go into real estate and do the same thing is even more difficult. Although,
But you did it.
yeah, but that's the whole thing. I'm a survivor. I'm like you, motivated. I mean, you know, we still work out. We still have our passions. We still live for our dreams. Dream big.
More
One
so
thing
than
I can
ever.
say, dream big.
Absolutely.
Do not let anybody take away
No.
your big dreams. Dream big because you can make them happen. Manifest. How many times have we talked about manifestation?
One of my all-time favorite words. I learned it from Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Right?
He's always talking about manifestation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, you have to. Here's another thing that I feel is an important life lesson, and I need to remind myself of
Isn't
this
this
stuff
my
too.
interview?
Okay, you want me to ask you another question?
Well, if you have one.
I have one. So where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Alive,
Yes, that would be nice.
still married, healthy, happy, and with a passion to live every single moment of the remainder of the time that I have in a loving and kind way.
I'm 100% on the same page with you. That's the way I feel.
100%.
I only want to be around people who have the same kind of positive energy that I like to think that I have. I don't care about your political opinions. I don't care if you're religious or if you're an atheist. What I do care about is that you accept yourself as an individual and that you're happy with yourself and that you're content with yourself. And I'm not really so keen on being around people who are just prattling on and on about things that are beyond their control. Because when I'm around that energy, I feel a little bit weaker inside. It's almost like we have to go through our lives like the Starship Enterprise with the shields
To be
up.
perfectly frank with Johnny over here, Johnny Bro, is even if you started to even attempt that, it's gone through one ear, perhaps not even one ear, and went out the other.
This is a good one.
Yeah, and went out the other. He won't. It's just you block it out. You move forward. Focus and surround yourself with the white light of love. Be kind. Be generous. Be forgiving. And
Forgive yourself.
And learn to love yourself.
Yes, it's not narcissism. Anyone who tells you for a narcissist that you're a narcissist for loving yourself is someone that you don't want in your life. And quite frankly, those people, and they will never admit it, but they are jealous of you and they are envious of you for the faith that you have in yourself and whatever it is that you want to do with your life. It's really better to be alone.
Well said. Just move on. Take the higher ground. Believe in yourself. Manifest. Surround yourself with people that care about you. And learn to love yourself before you can love somebody else. Really. Any more questions?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we're done. You want to wrap this up?
Well, we can wrap it up because we've had a really nice first episode, I think.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I'm very
happy. My voice
happy.
is drying out a little.
Have a sip of your coffee.
Yes.
So
my health beverage.
Yeah,
my power drink.
We are healthy Canadians. We're proud Canadians. And we wanted to talk about Canada, but we're not going to get into a lot of different things. Really about this first episode was to give the viewing audience at this particular moment, there isn't one, but hopefully sooner than later, once we start getting into our YouTube channel and Spotify, that you would be interested in coming back and perhaps suggesting content.
Great. We want the interaction.
Totally.
We want to hear from you, and we want you to share your story with us too.
Absolutely.
Right.
And really not to drag on because we've put a good 40 minutes into this. I haven't really checked, but I wanted to keep it short, sweet, and concise because this was our first, and we really didn't. We talked about what we wanted to do. We played a game of pool. We've known each other for 52 years old. No, he lost. Right? I mean, that's the difference.
For lack of effort.
No.
The force is with him. The force is not with
He's
me.
extremely good when it comes to lack of effort.
Oh, thanks for that.
And no, but I mean that in a very positive
kick
way.
me in the groin while you're at it?
Not at all. I'd rather give you a hug and say something nice. But at the end of the day, we're really happy that we're able to put this together. We've talked about it for a while. I've been preparing for this. I just wanted to point out that my shirt here says InstaFlow 360. Unfortunately, early in the game, we're not monetized yet on YouTube. We don't have any audience on Spotify, but we've got to start somewhere.
Right.
And
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Not at all. And it lasted thousands of years because it was built really well. And everything that comes to a start and fruition has got to have an end. Well, we're at the start, and we want to make sure that this continues to grow and we have some fun, and hopefully you enjoyed it. I did want to speak to how this is possible, because I'm not a technical savvy guy. I'm a licensed real estate. I'm an investor. It's the 21st century. We have iPhones and computers and so on, but I did. In planning for this, I ended up buying an iPhone Pro Max 15. I bought this InstaFlow 360. See on the back. Shameless plug. If you want to support us in the future, happy. In the meantime, I paid for all of this.
Thank you.
And also our microphone system is.
I brought a present.
He did, and I have a present for Johnny as well. Before we go, we have the Hollylark M2, and it's this wonderful wireless lavalier system, and we're wearing it. This is it here, and it's attached to my iPhone. And then we have the InstaFlow 360, and it's really phenomenal how the technology.
We're very lucky where we're living in this time and age. And I'm always telling people, and I think maybe people our age who are somewhat disdainful of all of this technology. I hear this every once in a while, and I just want to shake my head and say, no. Yes, there's negatives. I mean, you see a bunch of kids hanging out and they're all looking at their phones or they're texting each other. That's kind of a negative, but I think the positive outweighs the negative by like 90%.
Totally. And Johnny,
if it wasn't for this technology, I wouldn't be a self-published author. I'd be sending my stuff in the mail where it would just wind up in somebody's fireplace.
But he just contradicted himself, because
no, I didn't.
Yeah, you do. You love to text like a machine. And I just call him.
Whoa,
I say,
whoa.
all the kids want to text. I just want to call. I want to call him.
I don't, not at the expense of the kind of interaction.
Is this our first fight? Our first disagreement?
It's a lover's quarrel. Yes, I love to text as much
I'm
as
monogamous
anybody,
and married, my friend.
but not at the expense of the kind of interaction that you and I are having right now.
No, I know, and we're fortunate to have this. So, at the end, we want to bring this all together. I have a gift for Johnny. And I wanted to give him a gift. I do want to talk about one thing, and we'll talk about culture and Canadianism and film and television and novels and food and fast food and whatever.
Anything goes.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to talk about my great-grandfather Cornelius Michael Pine. He was 97. He was with the Princess Patricia Light Infantry paratroopers, and he was in the Second World War with Canada, and the sole representative for the Korean War for Canada when he was a soon to be retiring major. And my uncle Stefan gave this book to him, and it is the one that I'm reading now, and I read a little bit before, I never got to it. It's the history of the SAS and the Secret Service and in the Second World War, and I mean, I love this stuff. And that's the book I'm reading right now. The book I want to give Johnny today, because he's such a great writer, and I want him to even be better, and I think there's room for improvement.
This is Paul's way of telling me that actually he thinks I suck as a writer.
No, I think he's a great writer, and I think if he read this book, it would take a television series, get an agent, or perhaps a screenplay for a movie.
Always keep your mind open to new ideas. And it's good to have faith in yourself.
Keep on growing.
But also be open to other people's notions, because you can
dream big.
And criticisms too.
Dream big, believe in yourself, manifest, be positive, surround yourself with the right people, and that is for you, my friend.
Thank you so much. There we
Robert
go.
McKee
Story by Robert McKee.
Because this is soon to be one of the great stories.
Thank you. Well, you know what? I also like to say this, that if I never get to ring the bell of my ultimate dream, which is to see my stories on the big screen,
it's going to happen.
At the end of the day,
we're going to make it happen.
Okay, we are. But at the end of the day, what matters is the journey of our lives, and our destinations are all the same. No, I don't care who you are, where you're living, or how much money you have or don't have, or what your ethnicity is. We're all these bodies that our spirits are in are like cars. They have expiration dates. Hopefully not anytime soon.
Our family likes to call them vessels.
Vessels. Well,
and
nice word.
Take care of the vessel, because that's the only vessel you have this time.
What matters is that you're enjoying the journey of your life. And if you're not enjoying the journey of your life, then for goodness sakes, be honest with yourself.
And learn to love the journey.
Yeah. You have to do what you're thinking about doing. If you just think about it, and I'm not judging, I don't mean to throw stones in a glass house, But if you just think about what you're doing and you don't do it, what happens is you suffer. And those feelings of insecurity and suffering and angst, they have the potential to affect other people around you. And I don't want to live my life that way. I always want to feel good about myself because I feel that by doing that, it inspires other people, or at least helps other people feel good about themselves too. And that's the world that I want to live in. It's never going to be a perfect world. It's never going to be paradise. But I want to live in a world where more and more people like you watching this podcast and like my brother Paul here believe in ourselves and are living our lives Rocky Balboa style.
And to finish this up, great way to finish it up, Johnny. Thank you.
Thank you for the book. Love
You're
it.
very welcome. And thank you for joining us, and continue to join us in this journey.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
And the Great Canadian Bro Show. How's it going, eh?
Don't take off, eh?
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Cheers.
Peace.
Peace. Namaste.